Do terrorist groups have to follow IHL proportionality rules? Imagine a war zone where not everyone is a soldier. Some groups operate outside traditional armies, making the rules of war more complicated. That's where international humanitarian law comes in. It's a set of rules designed to protect civilians and limit suffering during conflicts. These laws include the Geneva Conventions and the laws of armed conflict. One key rule is proportionality. It says that when attacking, you should not cause civilian harm that is excessive compared to the military advantage gained. But what about terrorist groups? Do they have to follow these rules? Well, it depends on whether they are considered part of an armed conflict under international law. If a terrorist group has a command structure and can carry out sustained military operations, it might be seen as an organized armed group. When that happens, they are bound by IHL rules, including the proportionality principle. So, if a terrorist group is involved in an armed conflict and meets these criteria, they must distinguish between civilians and combatants. They should avoid attacks that cause more civilian harm than the military gain justifies. If they deliberately target civilians or conduct indiscriminate attacks, these acts are considered war crimes. Such violations can be prosecuted under international law. But if a terrorist group does not meet the criteria of an organized armed group or is not involved in an armed conflict, then IHL might not apply directly. Instead, criminal laws and counterterrorism measures are used to address their actions. The main point is that when terrorist groups are involved in armed conflicts, they are subject to IHL rules, including proportionality. This helps protect civilians and keeps the conduct of hostilities within legal limits. However, whether they are legally bound depends on how the conflict is classified and whether the group qualifies as an organized armed group under international law. Violations of these rules by terrorist groups can lead to prosecution for war crimes. It's important for states and international organizations to carefully assess the situation. If a conflict exists and the group qualifies, then IHL applies, and proportionality rules must be followed. This ensures that even non-state actors like terrorist groups are held accountable for their actions during armed conflicts. So, in simple terms, terrorist groups involved in armed conflicts do have to follow IHL proportionality rules, but only if they are recognized as parties to those conflicts.